Hello friends, welcome back to my channel. My name is Coco and today we are using my new mic. So if there's any weird sound things, I apologize. But I am being self-indulgent and doing one of my favorite things today, which is tier ranking. We're going to be tier ranking every horror book that I read last year. I want to do a video at some point of every horror book that I've ever read, but I feel like that's a really big undertaking and I don't know how I would even go about figuring out all of the books that I've read. So let me start recording my computer screen and we'll get right into it. So here are our tiers. The first one is I Love You, Bitch, and this is self-explanatory. These are just books that I ended up really liking. They are my favorite horror and I will suggest them to anyone. The next one is I Like It, Picasso. I needed something kind of in the middle. There is a WTF Did I Just Read Affectionate, which I don't think it's any worse or any better than the I Like It, Picasso, but I needed to be able to differentiate that because there are books where I have no idea what was going on, but I really enjoyed them. And then there's other ones where I knew what was going on and I enjoyed it. The next one is A Nothing Burger. This gave me nothing. Go girl, give us nothing is how I feel about these. I don't really remember them, or they were just so mid that, you know, it's not even really super worth talking about. Unfortunately, I did have a few of those. The next one is What the Fuck Did I Just Read? Derogatory, which is kind of self-explanatory. I don't understand what was going on and I didn't like it. And then the last one is just Yikes, which there's a plethora of different reasons that one of these horror books could be listed as Yikes, and you'll see. I have 27 books on this list, so we're just going to go ahead and get started. Let's start with Bury Your Gaze by Chuck Tingle. I ended up really liking this book. This is a book about a main character who's a writer for kind of a tongue-in-cheek version of WB, or one of the other big players in Hollywood. He writes shows, and his characters in the show that he was writing, the executives want him to kill off one of the women, and it's a gay couple, if you know the Bury Your Gaze trope, and he refuses. His creations might be going after him, and possibly the reality that he lives in changes very quickly. It's very good. I don't love this more than some other books. I did really like it, so I'm going to put it in I Like It, Picasso. Next one we're going to talk about is Graveyard Shift by ML Rio. I find myself going in between Nothing Burger and Yikes, but I think it's more of just a Nothing Burger. This book was not something that should have been done in a novella. I don't think the author was able to do what they wanted to do within the time that a novella gives them, and I just kind of left the book being like, that's it, that's what's going on. It's supposed to be about these people who all end up meeting at this graveyard every night for whatever different jobs they have. They work overnight or they're up overnight, and one day this very old graveyard suddenly has an open grave, and it's weird because people aren't still buried in there, and they basically are talking about how this happened and why. It was a very abrupt ending and very weird, and I didn't like it. If it wasn't a novella, I probably would have ended up DNFing it, but I feel like if it wasn't a novella, it might have been a book that I liked. I DNF'd If We Were Villains by this author too, so maybe I just don't like this author. The next one is Carmilla. I'm gonna say I Like It, Picasso because this is the Carmen Machado edited version. If I had read just the regular one, I would say Joseph Sheridan Le Fanu is an incel and a weirdo, but I like Machado's context and commentary on this, so I do really like that book. Which, if you don't know Carmilla, it's like the quintessential vampire book about a vampire who is seducing another woman. It's very sapphic, but the way that Le Fanu wrote it, it was supposed to be like, look at these horrible women, you know, these women who want each other. It's just evil and vampiric and bad. Because it's Carmen Machado's editing, I like it. Let's go with Dead of Winter. I'm just going to go next in the line. This one was okay. It kind of was a Nothing Burger because I don't really remember much of it. It's like a closed door murder mystery type thing where all these people are end up in a cabin in the woods in winter and bad things are happening. It's kind of a mix between like And Then There Were None and what's that movie, Dale and Tucker, the one where they're accidentally like all these college students are accidentally themselves. It kind of reminds me of that a little bit, although it's not an accident in Dead of Winter, but I digress. And then the next one I'm going to talk about is I want to talk about a rave. So When the Wolf Comes Home, I want to put it in WTF Did I Just Read Affectionate, but I love it. So I'm putting it in the top tier. It is a book where it's like you don't know what is going on at any point, or you do, but you don't know what's going to happen next. It supposedly starts as like kind of like a werewolf book, but it really evolves into something different. Our main character finds this little boy who's scared of his dad, and his dad seems to possibly be a werewolf, and she has to decide if she's going to help him or not. And it kind of opens this floodgate of things that happen. I'm not doing it justice when I'm talking about it, but it is so good and I highly recommend it. Bat Eater and Other Names for Cora Zeng. I'm gonna say I Love You Bitch, because this is the first book that I've read that had anything to do with COVID where I didn't DNF it, and I just love the story of Cora dealing with hungry ghosts and a possible murder mystery involving bats, and it also deals a lot with grief and dealing with her sister dying directly from bigotry. And there's a lot of really interesting commentary on Asian American hate, especially around COVID, but the way that it's done, it's just a wild story, and I really liked it. I think I ended up giving it like a 4.5 when I read it. The Year of the Witching, see, going back to some of these, I'm like, I gave it a high rating when I finished it. I did like this, so I'm going to put it in a like it Picasso. I don't think it's a nothing burger because I enjoyed it and I do want to read the next one. Almost feels kind of like The Village. I don't want to compare everything to another thing, but it's a Puritan style town. She's a secret witch, and there's a lot of things involved, including like she is, I think, half black. Something goes on where all these different things occur, but she has to be careful about being labeled as a possible witch, especially with the color of her skin. I don't remember the full story. I do want to reread it and read the next one that comes out, but it was good. I liked it. I just remember liking it. The vibes are all I remember. Unfortunately, Don't Let the Forest In. This is going to be a WTF Did I Just Read? Not because it was confusing, but because I didn't understand why so many people love this book so much. This is a YA horror by, I think, C.G. Drews. Kind of like a botanical horror. Our main character, there's two main characters. One is Andrew, the other is, I don't remember, but one of them draws weird, creepy botanical things, and the other one tells a story. So the one kid who draws it is doing it based off of the story. Their drawings might end up coming to life in this boarding school. I do think it was cool that there was ace representation in this book, but the writing was so flowery and so over the top and ridiculous and tried to be poetic way too much, and it just completely took me out of the story the entire time. And I'm surprised that I finished this book, to be honest, because it was just, no, too much. You need to straddle the line. You can write pretty, although I don't even feel like the author did it well. It just felt like the author was emulating other writers who have mastered that type of writing and wanted to write the same way, and I just don't think it worked. So that makes me sad because I've heard good things about it, and I've had other YA horror I've really loved, like Delicious Monsters, incredible. Love that book. That one, not so much. Night's Edge. This is by Liz Karen. I really liked this. This is like a play on vampirism as an allegory for drug use and abuse and the way that people who are addicted to drugs are treated in society. Also, what it's like to be the child of someone who is, in this case, a vampire, and she always ends up having to take care of her mom and do all these things because vampires are really not well received within society for several different reasons. So she has always taken care of her mom, not really had her own life, and she gets the opportunity to possibly do something she's loved to do and wanted to do her whole life, and she has to decide if she's gonna live her own life or continue living for her mom. So I really enjoyed that. I thought it was a really interesting take on vampires and vampirism, and also drug use in society and how society treats drug users. Okay, so the next one, I'm gonna say, let's do the Haar. This one is kind of a WTF Did I Just Read derogatory, because this is another one that a lot of people really liked, and I just didn't think that it was that great. It felt like there was a lot of low blows, and it was really generalizing of Americans. Like every first world country is contributing to the horrible things that are going on in the environment. Like I know right now we have a mad king, and that's making things worse, but I don't think this was written when he was what you would I wouldn't call him a president, but this was not written then, so it would make more sense if it was a look at what's going on there. But this is just, I don't know, it's weird. I didn't like it. I didn't think that the horror that occurred in here was done that well. I don't know. I understood it. I just didn't get why it played out the way it did, and I don't think it had as much commentary on anything that people say it does. So the next one is going to be Head Full of Ghosts by Paul Tremblay. This is, to me, I'm going to say it's going to be derogatory. I'm going to say Nothing Burger, because people say like this book is like a mind fuck and you don't get what's happening. This book is about a girl that's supposedly possessed, but her family lets in a crew to document her exorcism by this priest. And basically the dad is a weird Catholic zealot. It talks about demons, it talks about possession. And as someone who grew up Catholic, and literally I don't believe in Catholicism or any sort of demons or angels or anything like that, just as much as I don't believe in the Easter Bunny, it really did nothing for me. I didn't get scared at any point. I just felt annoyed at the religious zealotry that occurred in this. And if you're Catholic, that's fine. I just don't think that it's scary or the story was very compelling at all. And it wasn't surprising. People say that this whole story surprised them. I was not enthused or surprised at all. Here's our first yikes. Hidden Pictures by Jason Rekulek, or however you say his name, is a badly written book that is a vehicle for transphobia, and I don't think anyone should read this. It's not good. It's a play on every other story of like, oh, this kid might be possessed or whatever, where this kid starts drawing these pictures of weird things happening. Our nanny who comes in can't catch him drawing them, and I don't know, it's a whole thing, but it has a weird transphobic twist. It doesn't make any sense. There's a lot of convenient plot points, and I just think it's not worth reading. If you are against transphobia or anything like that, I would also not read it. Plus, it's just not written well. Let's go on to Patricia Wants to Cuddle. This one is actually going to be my first WTF Did I Just Read Affectionate. This is about, it's like a reality show, and they're going out into the wilderness. It's a mix between like, I don't know, like Survivor and a dating show. It follows some of our characters. They go out into these woods. There may or may not be some sort of creature, Sasquatch-esque creature in the woods that the people of the town possibly already know about. I'm not going to go any further into it, but this book was so bizarre and weird, and I really enjoyed it. I read this for a vlog, I think in the summer, where I was reading books just based on me picking it up and not looking at any sort of ratings, and I don't think other people rated it the same way I did, if I remember correctly. I thought it was fun and interesting and a WTF type of book that I liked. I ended up really enjoying it, and I haven't really heard many people talk about it, but I liked it. Hell Followed With Us. This is by Andrew Joseph White. This is about a trans boy who escaped from a cult where they did something to him and also somewhat brought about the apocalypse. He may be the only key to solving the apocalypse, but the cult also wants him to be the key to like bring about the apocalypse completely. I really liked this. I thought it was really good, talking about like bodily autonomy and what it means to be trans, especially in a really strange situation. It had a lot of good talking points, and I really liked it. Talked a lot about a lot of different things, and it was just really unique. Really, you don't see many books that talk about being trans after, you know, like in a dystopian future apocalypse, although it kind of feels like we're in that right now. But yeah, so I'm gonna say I love you, bitch. It was really good. I have one or two other Andrew Joseph White books that I'm going to be reading at some point soon, including The Spirit Bears Its Teeth and Compound Fracture. The next one I want to talk about, we'll just go in order. Into the Drowning Deep by Mira Grant. This is a mermaid horror book where our main character's sister dies during an expedition, and she's going to go in another expedition with the same, it's a play on Discovery Channel where they're trying to figure out if mermaids exist, and unfortunately they got more than they bargained for, and they might end up doing that again. So these mermaids are not kind. It was kind of a what the fuck did I just read, just because it was very campy and I liked it like that. There's a lot of different characters. Yeah, I really enjoyed it. It wasn't super hard to follow, but it was kind of a really campy what did I just read. Next, we'll talk about Witchcraft for Wayward Girls by Grady Hendrix. This one, I'm going to say I like it. I don't want to say it's like one of the best books I've ever read. I think I rated it 4.5 stars, maybe. It's a book about girls that end up going to a home for wayward girls that they did a lot in from like the 40s to the 70s of girls that ended up getting pregnant. A lot of these girls didn't do it by choice, and even if they did, they don't deserve to just be shuttled off and their bodily autonomy and their autonomy as possible future parents taken away. So this is about them kind of reclaiming themselves and possibly becoming witches and doing witchcraft, which I think is really fun. So I'm gonna put that in I like it because it wasn't one of the best books I've ever read, but I really, really did enjoy it. Let's do Hunted by Darcy Coates. This one is very much a nothing burger. I think that category, I thought of this book when I made that category. It's supposed to be about these people that end up, I don't even really remember what it was supposed to be about. This girl gets lost in the woods and they find pictures of her being hunted by this weird creature, possibly. It's got a bunch of different characters, including like a detective character, the brother of the girl that goes missing. I just, beat for beat, I was able to guess almost every plot point in this. It is older than Dead of Winter by Darcy Coates, and I think she did get a little bit better, but Darcy Coates for me is just like an author that I will sometimes read because it's just so easy to read, but I'm also like, okay, what was the point of that? It wasn't even a popcorn read because it's not incredibly enjoyable, but you know, it is what it is. And the next one I want to talk about is The Starving Saints. I actually really liked this. This is a WTF Did I Just Read affectionate, because I at no point knew what was going on in this book, and it was like a fever dream, but that was also what was happening to the characters. It's about this abbey being bombarded by the enemy and they're starving. We have 3 women main characters. One of them is a servant girl, one of them, she does small witchcraft, and the other one is a female knight, and they're the only ones that realize that when the saints that the people in this abbey pray to come and say that they're going to save everyone's lives, they think it's a wolf in sheep's clothing and nobody else believes them, and they're basically the only sane ones, and they have to try and get through this and try and get other people to see what is happening when they're all seemingly enchanted by these supposed saints. They think it's a little bit too convenient, and this really is like a fever dream. I've mentioned this before, that it feels like the Dionysus like arc of True Blood. If you've watched that, it's just weird, and I liked it a lot, especially because it has a lot of like religious imagery. It's not any sort of religion that we have in the real world, but it's got a lot of nods to different things, especially like Catholic imagery, so I thought it was good. The next one we're going to do is the Southern Book Club's Guide to Slaying Vampires. A lot of people didn't like this book. I did. It was really interesting because I felt like Grady Hendrix used his voice as a white man to kind of talk about the things that go on with women, and black women especially, not being believed or understood or listened to. The people in this town are enchanted by this man that comes in, and the black people in the black side of town are telling them that there's people in their town that just they're in the neighborhood that just keep disappearing, and they think it's this man, but nobody believes him because he's very charismatic. There's also a woman who's in just like this white ladies book club that decides that she wants to take down this guy, and she thinks he's a vampire. It's just this whole debacle. I actually really liked it. I think people don't get the nuance that goes into this book, and I do think that Grady Hendrix did a good job using his voice to talk about things, and I think it was just an interesting book. I liked it. The next one is September House. So this one is about a haunted house, and this woman lives in this haunted house. You know how most people would go running and screaming from their house? She got a really good price for this house. I'm sure her interest rate is low. She decides that she's not going to leave even though the house is haunted. It especially gets worse and worse the closer you get to September. And she's like, well, I'm not leaving. The economy is crap and I got this house for really cheap and it's a beautiful Victorian house. So she's just decides to stay and deal with the literal hauntings that are happening. And I think it's a really interesting allegory for possible mental illness. And it is really very much a WTF did I just read? You don't know if this woman is a reliable narrator or not. I actually ended up liking this a lot. I didn't read this for a video or anything. I just ended up reading it on my own and I liked it. Next one is Lucky Day by Chuck Tingle. I love this book so much. This is a horror book that is about a bunch of low probability events all happening on the same day. And this casino where everybody wins big, their luck is somehow perfect at this casino, might have something to do with it. Our main character is a statistician, so when all these low probability events happen where a bunch of people die on the same day and all these weird things that have such a low probability that they almost shouldn't occur happen, she doesn't know what to do with her life because statistics and probability mean nothing anymore, and she's just kind of given up. But she gets approached by someone from a very covert part of the government to try and take this casino down. She has to work with them. And I really like this, and it's one of the best book covers that I own. I love this book, and the cover is beautiful. The next one is The Mist by Stephen King. This one was a yikes, especially because the main character and the choices that he made, especially regarding his wife and his child, I just felt like that ruined the entire story for me. It was written in 1980 or published in 1980, so I would want to give the benefit of the doubt, but it's what the main character did in this and the way he treats and talks about women, which the way Stephen King treats and talks about women is weird. I don't know. It's just a whole thing, and it was just yikes, and I didn't like it at all. Okay, Never Whistle at Night. I wanted to love this so bad. This is an anthology of Indigenous horror, and a lot of it plays on Indigenous legends, which is really cool. There were a couple stories in this that I liked, but I didn't feel like there was a super big through line within it, and some of the stories really fell flat or felt like they were rushed or needed to be worked on a little bit more. I did really like the story, I think, by Nick Medina in here. So unfortunately, to me, this is kind of a nothing burger, and I don't remember most of the stories except for Nick Medina's story, so I wanted to love that so much. And maybe if some of those were full-length novels, I would, but I didn't. You're Not Supposed to Die Tonight. Again, unfortunately, I really wanted to love this. Was a nothing burger. It's about this girl. It's a YA horror. It's about this girl. They end up in a situation where it's kind of like she might be a final girl in real life, as she's used to playing a final girl every night for this actor gig. The writing wasn't super great. I don't think that a lot of what happened made sense, and it just felt kind of mid to me, unfortunately. When the Reckoning Comes, this is about a woman who decides to come back to her really racist, weird town for her best friend's wedding, and her best friend is having her wedding, like, she's black and her best friend is white, and her white friend is having her wedding on a plantation. It's about dealing with that and possibly literal ghosts that come to avenge all the enslaved people that were on this plantation, and I thought it was really interesting. It wasn't the best book I've ever read in my life, but I really, really liked it. And then, which one should I do last? Okay, I read Reformatory last in the year, so I'm gonna do that last. So we're gonna talk about Bad Cree. Bad Cree by Jessica Johns. I loved this book. This is a book that deals with grief, a lot of grief horror, and there were parts that made me cry. This is about a girl that keeps having dreams about her sister that died, but her sister keeps showing up in these dreams and asking for her help. When our main character wakes up, she's actually clutching a rock, or there's dirt in her hand, or there's a crow's head at one point. She has to go back to her hometown to try and figure out these dreams because she's feeling like she's in danger. A lot of it's definitely grief horror. It has to do with reaching out to people. It has to do with grief as it pertains to families and how different people react differently. And it was beautiful. It was so good. The writing was great. I was invested the entire time, and the horror storyline of it was really interesting. And then last but definitely not least, we have The Reformatory by Tananarive Due. This is about a young boy in 1950s-ish in Florida. There's still some Jim Crow laws going on in this time period, and this is based on a true reformatory school that mostly black boys are sent to, where they may never leave. He has always been able to see haints or spirits. He has to try to employ the ones that hang around the reformatory because of all the horrible things that have happened there to try and keep himself alive, because there's a lot of times where these boys are only supposed to go in for 6 months, like he is, for kicking a boy that was trying to come on to his sister and be really gross. Some of them never get out, or they end up getting their sentence pushed to when they're 21, and he has to try and survive. This is based on a real true reformatory that Tananarive had a family member that was in there. This was an incredible book. The writing was great. The story kept me on my toes, and it actually told a really important story that I think a lot of people should hear, especially because she does name at the end the actual reformatory, possibly at the beginning, and then there's some random people that were activists and black lawyers and everything that were real that are mentioned and have some sort of a storyline in this book, and I really think it was cool. That's what we've got. I actually think I did pretty well for all the horror books that I read this year. I ended up liking a lot of them. There's only 2 that went into yikes, surprisingly. I'm really surprised it's not more, although there are quite a bit in the nothing burger category, unfortunately. Don't Let the Forest In. I would possibly put it in yikes, but who knows? I don't know. It just wasn't for me. I love doing tier ranking videos. It's kind of self-indulgent for me, so I hope you enjoyed this. I will definitely be doing more videos on horror books in the future because they're one of my favorite books. I've been reading more and more of them as the years go on. I feel like a lot of people who follow me might also really love that genre as well. Thank you so much for watching. Please make sure to like, comment, and please subscribe. I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye.